Welcome to iChangeTheNarrative, a podcast for and about Black men, inspiring, supporting, and empowering other Black men and Black boys. Please allow me to introduce today's guest. We have Lester Burney. He is a full-time associate professor of human services counseling at the Community College of Baltimore County. He's the owner of Woodbridge Behavioral Health Associates, which is a private practice in mental health counseling for individuals, couples, and families. Next, we have Daryle Smith. He is the area representative for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in Clayton County in Georgia. He is a seasoned preacher, motivational and inspirational speaker with over 20 years of expertise in youth development. He is also specializes in positively impacting and inspiring today's youth. And I can't wait for you to hear his story about mental health issues that he has struggled with. Next, we have Mr. William Batt. Mr. William Batt is a mental health specialist. He has worked in both the public and private sectors. He's served in many roles in the human service and mental arena. He prides himself on being able to communicate and connect with both leadership and direct service roles. And he is a graduate of Bowie State University, also the University of Maryland. Please welcome today's guest. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being on the show. Today's topic is just really a powerful topic, and I know it's very powerful to you all as well. Today's topic is bleeding from the wrists. Black men and their reluctance to mental health. We're just going to dive right into it, and I'm going to ask you all my first question, and please feel free to just join in whenever you feel the need. There is no set way we're doing this. So what are some of the reasons that Black men do not discuss the emotional and mental health needs of Black men enough?
Well, I think that, as you said, bleeding from the wrist is like bleeding from the soul as well. I think one of the primary reasons is that there's still an enormous stigma attached to it. And not just in our community, but in communities in general. It's the concept that if I ask for help, if I admitting that I have some type of emotional needs that I may need to talk to someone on a professional level, that stigma says that it's a weakness. It's like, why are you doing this? Why are you going to seek help? You're supposed to, and that's what that whole male bravado that you're supposed to suck it up, that you're supposed to get over it. And what you're really doing for a lot of individuals that we know is that you're just internalizing depression. You're internalizing the anxiety, and it manifests itself at some point in anger, in depression, in an inability to sustain and have good relationships. So I would say, just to throw it out there, it's that stigma. We can't get past that stigma. It's getting better. But for right now, we're still kind of like wallowing in that.
I think also it's real new on top of what Professor said. I mean, think about it. The NFL and the NBA are billion-dollar businesses, and they still ain't figured it out yet.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, when you look at what Ron Artest was going through his whole career, it wasn't until the later stages of his career that they were like, okay, there's something wrong. Now that Kevin Love comes out, everybody's embracing it now and saying, okay, this is something. When you look at certain football players, it was just never, it was just like they were a problem child. And I think that was the other stigma, Professor, is that nobody wants to get to the root of it. They just think that this person is a problem. They're negative, they're bad, there's no hope for them. On the flip side, where I'm from in the hood, it was like you just don't talk about that. That's something you just don't talk about. You man up. If you feel like you're about to break down and cry, man up. And I remember times people hitting me and punching me, man up, toughen up. So it was just that whole thing of lack of understanding something.
Right.
Absolutely. And in addition to what these two gentlemen said, I believe it has to do with socialization, because as boys, as men, starting out as boys, we're socialized to show no weakness. We teach our sons that to show weakness in relationships or to show weakness in business, to show weakness in competition is not going to get you to where you would like to be. So we have to find that balance to try to sort of mitigate that attitude of showing no weakness. And as Brother Smith said, just the whole mindset of keep it moving. We don't talk about that. It has kept generations and generations up, and we got to figure out a way to do better.
Yeah, we have to be willing to, like you say, with the socialization, even from a young age. We uniquely oftentimes raise our daughters very differently than we raise our sons. The daughters can, as it should be, they can express emotions. They can come. They can sit up on the lap and say, I'm scared and things of this sort. But the male, the son, has to, not show emotions, not let anything, get into that inner side of him. And what happens is we think that there's going to be a big difference when this person goes from being a young person to being a grown adult. And the problem is that, the person can maybe provide and work and do those things that are required of them, but being able to chiefly ask for help when you need help, or be able to have that understanding back to their own children, especially the males again, it's going to be difficult.
Absolutely. And, the other side to that socialization piece is speaks to why young men are typically over sexualized.
Right.
That whole piece of girls socialized, don't upset your father, don't disappoint your mother, be a good girl, be studious, so forth and so on. Boys, on the other hand, typically are socialized. Now, I'm not even saying that parents are necessarily socializing the kids, but I mean within that culture away from home, live it up, do what you want, just don't get caught. I mean, it's a whole different socialization piece that occurs among boys that it's just not healthy. It's not healthy at all. And I think that's a part of this whole conversation.
I think also when it comes to the social aspect, and let's use social media, I basically feel like, man, it's basically a Batman complex. And Janique, Miss Williams, you know me, man. I'm gonna always use that comic book analogy. But as soon as Bruce Wayne's parents died, man, instantly he was a billionaire, man. But he focused on his pain. But how did he focus on it, man? He took a fight, took his money and basically got gadgets. And after that, he put a mask on and stayed in a cave. And that's kind of how we are, man. We get caught up in these gadgets, man, and we put this mask on to hide our real pain and our hurt. And so sometimes, man, like I think especially for millennials and the younger generation, man, we got to be the Alfreds to remind them, man, take off the mask, get out of the cave. That's not who you are. You're Bruce Wayne. You're not Batman. And I just think like the more people keep on their masks, they don't want to show that weakness. And I think one of the things that I'm very thankful and blessed is that I just decided to come out and talk about it because I didn't see it in the Black men community. And I remember one day I posted like, I'm getting treated and I have depression and I have anxiety, but it's not going to define me. And then it just became viral and I was getting inboxes and I just said, I'm going to keep talking about it. And then once I started studying Batman, I was like, man, this dude is just like me.
Right.
So I just think like we have to understand there are examples out there of how to do it the bad way. Now it's like, hey, let's talk about it. And I feel like, and again, I like to use analogies. So if there's no men out there that get it, I think the more it's the reverse of the crew. The more you talk about Freddie, the stronger he came. The less we talk about mental illness, the stronger it becomes in our community. I think the more we talk about it and we celebrate our month and we let people know it's okay. And sometimes it's seasonal and sometimes it's permanent. Let's just talk about it so that you know you're not the only one.
Right. And one thing I wanted to add to that, and I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, I've noticed that to the point that you were making, that we need to remind the millennials that it's okay. I've actually seen the reverse of that. I've seen that the millennials are far more open than the old timers. They utilize this conversation in a big way. That's what I've seen. Have you gentlemen seen that?
I would agree. I think that millennial generation, they tend to be seemingly more receptive to the concept of talking and maybe getting those feelings out, because maybe they see it early on and they see it as not a healthy concept. It's interesting because even culturally, not just with us in the African American community, but it lines with the Hispanic community as well, where mental health is just not seen as something that should be as valued as it is. We want it in the same measuring as medical health, your physical health, and also your mental health as well. There's no coincidence that we have, overflooding of young men in juvenile justice systems and things of that, because it speaks to the things that they witnessed, that they were seeing in the homes and not having that ability to kind of talk it out. There's dysfunction in every ethnicity, but what we can do is that we need to have to start looking to be more accountable and to say that these resources are there and start to channel people to those resources. I see a lot of men come into therapy and counseling because they kind of nudged on by a wife or a partner or even a mom to saying, hey, I want him to go talk to somebody because I see some issues there. And that's what we want, more that he needs to be okay talking to someone else.
I want to let all the men know out there, man, it's okay not to be okay.
It is.
I'm going to say that again. It is okay not to be okay. It is okay to cry. It is okay not to just feel like moving. But at that same point, you need to connect. I remember when Tyrese was on social media crying about his child. And I was so angry because we made fun of him, man.
Right.
But that could have been the thing that caused that man to hurt himself or kill himself. He was crying out. He took off his mask. And see, that's the other things we got to stop doing in our community, is that when men show vulnerability, we can't say that they're weak or effeminate. We just need to just say, hey, man, this man needs help. Let's support him. Let's love on him. And something else that got me too, and I'm gonna get a lot of pushback from the church community, but we got to just stop saying, "Hey, man, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna pray and fast this away." I'm at the point, man. If you can't pray and fast away a broken bone, you can't pray and fast a broken mind. The same way I go see an orthopedic for a broken bone, I need to see a doctor for a broken mind. And those are the traditions that we got to stop allowing to overtake our community and our men. Because a lot of them, and I just believe this. My brother is a warden in the federal prison, and I just really believe, listening to him talk, half of them guys probably don't even belong in there. They should have been institutionalized to get therapy.
Right. Because it's and as you said, I mean, there's a thing where we have to kind of keep attacking the stigma, and it goes as much as we as males can encourage other males to go into these counseling types of sessions and arenas. We also want to partner as much with our women in the community as well. And like you said, if you see someone, and I see a lot of people who you can see that they're struggling and they need to reach out to somebody, but it's not weakness. It's not that the person is not masculine. You can have swag and swag yourself up into a counseling office and talk to somebody and get the help that you need, because it doesn't have to be an ongoing thing where we get fooled sometimes by what we see on television, thinking that a person is going to be in this therapy setting for a year or two, a la like the Sopranos. But it can be a couple of sessions can really just change the dynamic in which a person looks at their situation, and not seeing all necessarily doom and gloom, but there is a way that you can address these issues that are really causing you stress day in and day out.
And you know, something, Professor Burney, that I wanted to piggyback on. It was a buzzword. It's a safe space.
Safe space.
Because the reality of it is that I believe the tough part of this conversation is society, women, children don't want to see men really crying all over the place.
Right.
I think that's the tough part of this conversation. It's a balance. And that's why it's important to develop a network of men in maybe it's your village, maybe it's maybe it's somewhere that's a safe space,
right,
where you can get it off, because you may have we may have a gentleman in the audience who's married to a woman who has a significant other who believes that if a man cries,
right,
he may just be expressing his point of view.
Right.
But she may see it as he's whining, he's crying, he doesn't want to live up to his obligation. When the reality of it is, he may be just simply expressing how he feels. Right. She may, because she's in a romantic relationship with him, that objective opinion won't be there. That non-judgmental space, it's a good chance it may not be there. Oftentimes, couples have to go through a lot of work to develop that level of maturity in a relationship, to not pass judgment on each other, to not, be hard on each other, to not use language that's not going to be best. What I'm trying to underscore here is the importance of the internet. It's probably not the best space to open up the microphone, to open up the camera, and just go for it. Right. Have that gift, they can do that, and they don't really care what people think. Just like to the point of what you were saying, Brother Smith, about the church maybe needs to do a little better. Everyone's healing is not going to be instantaneous. Some people will pray, some people will fast, and they'll be made whole. It'll be instantaneous. Others, it may be a lifelong struggle to overcome whatever clinical syndrome that they're dealing with. So it's a balance. What do you all think about that? I mean,
you spot on.
Women don't want to see men crying all over the place. That's just that's the truth.
But I think we have to change the narrative. I mean, women want men to be emotional. They want us to show emotion, but then they want us to be, like this unbreakable superhero. I always told my therapist, I felt like I was coming to a point where I felt like I could never take off the cape.
Right.
But I want to be here for the guys, man, that look like me, dress like me, got swag and drip like me. That I want you to understand it's okay. Like I'm gonna say this again. You need to find your Alfred. Find that one person that you can listen to and remind you who you are. But at the same time, man, we as a society need to cut this out. We got men killing themselves. This is, and then guess what happens? Come on, let's be real. Then it's like, oh, I wish he would have told me. I wish he would have said something. The signs was there. And so my whole thing is, I don't care. Look, man, I'm built for this. That's my mindset now. And I always tell my therapist, like, I'm glad I was a few steps away from having a nervous breakdown. And the only way that they caught it was I was at a VA annual checkup, and they asked me some questions, and she said, I don't like what you're saying.
Right.
That's how I got caught. And I'm gonna tell you, my older sister, Camille Smith, she has her degree in psychology, and I just refuse to be the sibling of someone with a master's degree in psychology. And that was the thing that like really motivated me to say, you know what, I'm gonna start taking these steps and heal. And I'm gonna tell you something. I made the biggest sacrifice. I was cutting people off. I was letting relationships go because I wanted to heal my mind, because I understood this wasn't a one-step process. And then the more I started looking online, there was nobody like me talking. Right. And so I just was like, man, I'm gonna post this today. Big Sean said something, man. This rapper Big Sean, it has stuck with me. He said, in high school, I learned about biology, chemistry, and geometry, but nobody in the school talked to me about anxiety. And so to that point, here's a guy, man, that's a millionaire that struggled with it, man. He was on a talk show talking about how much he struggled in the past year, man. And I just think, to the women out there, change your expectations of a man. Like make it personal. Don't make it social. Don't let society dictate what a man should be, because you're putting that on me. Most guys like myself, man, we didn't have our fathers growing up. And if we did, they didn't show the balance like Brother Bats is saying. So we're trying to figure it out as we go along. Here I am. I know I don't look 50, but I'm 50 years old, and I'm reinventing myself, and I'm focusing on my mental sobriety. And I just think that is the biggest thing. And we got to stop making people think, especially black men, think like, suck it up, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You know, they get that enough. They get that enough in the hood. They need somebody. If I fought to be successful and in a relationship, I don't need you bringing me down. I can be brought down at work. I can be brought down in the hood. I don't need you. I need you to be Wonder Woman. Like, I don't need you to be Batgirl. I don't need you in the cave with me. I don't need you tagging me down. I need you to be lifting me up. So, ladies, if I can just say anything, man, ladies, y'all are strong. Anything y'all say, I just don't say it. Y'all put your minds to it. If you start speaking life into a man, I promise you, it will change. And don't do it in a nagging way. So I didn't ask you this, Miss Williams, but can I just use a biblical example?
Sure, go ahead.
Elijah called down a meteor to earth, and then this woman named Jezebel got mad, and he took off running scared. And he said, God, I'm going to sit by this tree and I'm praying that you kill me. And so the angel comes and says, eat. He eats and goes into a cave. This is the powerful thing, because this is his depression. This guy just did a miracle, and this woman discombobulated him, and he ran to a cave. And the Bible says the fire came in the cave, an earthquake in the wind. Now, I don't know about anybody else on this show or anybody listening. If a fire, earthquake, or a strong wind come in the cave, I'm running out.
Right.
It says Elijah stayed in. It said, you know what drew him out? A soft answer from God. That's what Black men in mental illness need. They don't need you yelling at them like the wind, or hollering at them like the fire, or shaking them like the earthquake. They just need, and this is what God said to him. What are you doing? And he didn't say it to judge him. He was saying it to lead him to purpose. He was saying, look, man, you shouldn't be in this place, because I got 3 things for you to do. And that's been my motto wherever I go. When I hear a young boy talk, I say to him, I say, what are you doing? What do you mean? Like, why are you here? What's cause? And then the conversation, he tells me why he's that way. And I said, do you understand that you're going to do 2 great things, and you can't leave the earth until you find somebody to take your place? So you got three things to line up. And that's the conversations that I think we need to have as a community. I'm sorry for being so long.
No,
and you know, one of the things that I want to add to that is that we absolutely need the women in our lives to speak life over us and to be kind and reasonable with us. The fine line is that we cannot count on each other to be one another's therapists.
Exactly.
It's not gonna be good.
Right. It's not.
Yes.
An unbiased, objective person,
right,
who is professionally bound by professional standards.
I agree. Yeah.
To help oftentimes us get over the hump. So I agree with what you're saying, Brother Smith, 5,000%. We absolutely, kind words make a big difference. Words matter. So as the women in our lives are interacting with us, we could benefit from that. but we're not each other's therapists. And then one other point I'd like to add to that is that let's be mindful that women have their own set of struggles that they're going through.
Right.
So to show up for us how we need them to in a perfect way, that's not exactly fair.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that, and to everyone's point, I just think, as we said, the narrative needs to be changed, and everybody should have, and a support system of individuals that you listen to, that you're receptive to, that can tell you the truth. But again, it doesn't substitute for the clinical piece that's there, where if you are struggling, if you're having those things that you can't get past, you should seek out, and that should be encouraged, to seek out those individuals that can help you objectively talk through your issues. And one of the things I always say to everybody, whether it's, my students or people, let's not forget that life is hard. Life is not, I know it's painted different pictures and things like that, but life is hard. It's a lot of adversity, and it's really how you respond to those adversities that contribute to sometimes you having some good mental health, or sometimes some lapses in your mental health as well. But it affects all of us in any way. The death of someone significant in your life can take you into a spiral. So it can be anything that affects us, that causes us to get off track. But oftentimes we're going to need that person to get us back into the direction that we want to go in. Because again, life is not all, rosy and unicorns and all those types of things. It is something that you need to apply yourself in a conscientious way, oftentimes.
And if I can add this point, because I believe shows like this are important because it offers insight that the average person may not be aware of. And so if there's anyone listening who has a male in their life, a man in their life who is becoming a bit despondent, is not responding to things the way that they normally would, it is not enough to just give a rub on the back and a few encouraging words. If a person is saying that, I don't know if I want to be here anymore, if they're saying that this might not be for me, or they start to give things away, it is imperative that you get them professional support.
Right.
Because men are so much more significant, so much more likely to use a lethal form of ending their life. They use forms like guns, like it's no in between.
Right.
So we have to be mindful that it's just not enough that he's been in the basement and we go talk to him, and if someone is saying that they want to hurt themselves, or they just are, you can tell they're not themselves. And the reason why I'm underscoring this is because I've interfaced with people who loved one is no longer with us, and all they could say is, I wish I would have known what I know now. I wish I would have known to get help or to get someone involved. I didn't really know.
Right. You didn't know.
I just want to, I just want to throw that out there.
No, good point. Good point.
There's also no cookie cutter method. What treatment and therapy works for me is going to be different from you.
Right.
And so if you talk to somebody, you know how we try to, especially in the Black community, if we don't really trust something, we're going around and we're asking 20 questions. You can ask me all the questions you want, but your diagnosis is going to be different than mine, and your therapy plan is going to be different than mine. So don't, like, when you hear somebody's stories of how they were treated, some people have to be put in a hospital. Some people have to do therapy for 2 or 3 years. Some people have to take medicine. Some people have to do a combination. Don't let that scare you from finding out what's best for you. But the number one thing is to go talk to and I'm gonna say this very sternly, a licensed physician in that field, so that they can help you. For me, it's a combination of therapy and medication. And so that's what's been helping me with my sobriety. And I want to say this, this was the thing that got me. And men, I'm about to say this. I hope you're encouraged. My therapist said, Daryle, how can you go love on coaches and athletes and you don't love yourself?
Right.
She said, I ain't the biggest Christian. He said, but don't the Bible say love your neighbor as yourself? What are you measuring the love you give to somebody if you ain't loving yourself?
Exactly.
So, man, I've been spending like the last 18 months, man, I've been loving myself. Like I've been dating myself. I've been pouring into myself. I look in the mirror and be like, Daryle, you so dope. Look at that beard. Like, look at your look at your LeBron. Like, man, I amp myself up. Like that's where I'm at. Because it changed. Like that was the thing. Like, how can I love somebody and show love somebody if I don't have something to measure it to? That was the green light. And I give myself so many affirmations. But then she said, Daryle, you know what has kept you sane? I said, what? She said, the fact that you want to help people. And so as I pour into myself, now I'm on level 10 and I'm tweeting inspiring stuff. Yes. Every day. I'm asking, hey, did you smile today? Did you ask you what was your affirmation today? And what I'm finding out is people are responding back to me. And that keeps me going. And it gives me a sense of purpose. So fellas, man, love yourself, man. Like if you see that, ladies, we're not gonna stop spoiling you or nothing. But guys, spoil yourself, man. And I would say find a group and change the narrative. Instead of being around a bunch of guys and talking about mental health, just go to we can't go to the sports things, but like 4 of y'all get together, watch a game, and during commercials, just open up and have those conversations during commercials. You'll be surprised how much better you feel.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Daryle. What's your background? What's your story as to why you needed to seek mental health? Can you give us some background, some story on that?
I had a rough upbringing. I was in foster care system. By the time my dad found me, I was already messed up. But I always had this notion to help people, and I always push things to the back of my mind. After going through a divorce, I'm in the house alone, and I just wasn't feeling it. There were some days that I just didn't get out the bed, man, and I just didn't feel like moving, and it scared me because I didn't eat. The only time I got out the bed was to go use the bathroom. But I still was scared of that stigma and how people would label me. And like I said, when I went to the VA, I remember my first session with my therapist, and she says, Daryle, it's okay. We know what's wrong. And I was like, can you please tell me, because I'm scared. And it was nothing. And at that point, I wasn't scared for myself. I was scared for my children. I love my 3 daughters and my son. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I started feeling that way, like I didn't even, like I was supposed to plan to start going to the gun range. I said, I'm not going to no gun range. I'm not getting a gun because I see veterans that take their life, and I'm scared. I'm scared because of not what I do. I'm scared because I didn't know. And she said, Daryle, all of the childhood trauma that you received, you've got major depression and minor anxiety. And that was like me being told, like, I had chicken pox. Like, oh, okay, cool. And so I was like, okay, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna give me like, I gotta take pills? Like I said this stuff. I said, like, oh, do I take pills for 10 days and I'm good? Like, Daryle, the trauma didn't come in one day. The trauma's not leaving in one day. You're gonna be dealing with this for the rest of your life. Right. And that put me back into depression. And I remember I had a friend that would always check on me, and he would say, Daryle, I need you to hang. So in the middle of my living room, I got all my kids. So I walk through the door, I see them. When I go to the kitchen, when I come in the living room, I'm watching TV, I got my kids there. And so that began, I called the therapist back. And after I hung that picture up, because I was like, I'm scared, because after you told me that, I don't want to have this forever. And she said, Daryle, you got arthritis, right? And I was like, yes. She said, you're going to have arthritis forever. So you got to deal with this. But it's all how you manage it and how we treat it. If you stay to the treatment plan, then you will be able to manage it.
Right.
So it's just been, and here's the thing, I've been using my life story to inspire others, but I didn't realize I was reliving it every single time and bringing all that trauma up and not understanding it was a blow to my brain. And despite the thousands of athletes and coaches and people that were inspired by my message of hope, I was like basically sucker punching my brain every time. And so now I changed the way I talk about my life because I realized I have to let it go.
Right.
I have to let it go. It was a process of life that I live. It is not who I am.
Right.
Thank you for that.
And one thing that I wanted to underscore is that Brother Smith said that his therapist, the conversation he had with his therapist was that this would be something that he may be dealing with for the rest of his life. That may be his story, that may be his case, that may not be everybody's case.
Exactly.
I just want to be mindful that you don't sweep with the broad brush, because there is such a thing as situational depression. It's caused by a situation and it kind of evaporates over time.
Right.
They struggle their entire life. Some people may go in and out of bouts of depression. It just depends. I just want to make sure we're not sweeping with the broad brush, because I don't want someone to hear that.
That's real.
Right, and become discouraged and all.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
This is hey fellas, that's watching. This is me. This is my life. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm built to go through this, and this is going to be a constant reminder to continue to inspire people to seek mental health.
Right.
So I don't want you to think like my treatment plan, like I said earlier, and Brother Bat said, this is my walk. I mean, you may have a better life than me. You may not have had as much trauma that I had as a kid. So don't think because you're hearing my story, like, man, I'm not going to do that. No. The whole reason that we're here is to inspire and give you hope, to talk about mental health. And it's different. Just like there's different levels of autism, there's different levels of mental health.
Right.
And as the consumer of mental health, a person always has a right to participate up to a certain point. Fortunately, in Brother Smith's case, he was given a medication regimen along with therapy. He was open to that process. He did that. If you're a person who says, I want to give therapy a shot, but I'm not so sure about the medication piece.
Exactly.
Right, to say that. No one can force you to take medication.
Mm-hmm.
What the provider can do is help you to see the pros, see the cons, and then make an informed decision.
Right. And the other piece that I would want to add to just what you gentlemen have said is that with therapy, it's also, because it's a lot of misnomers about therapy just in general. It's a selection process, whereas you might have found somebody at the VA. When you go in, and if you say you have a primary physician and you're not crazy about that primary physician, you typically have the ability to go in your network and find somebody else. And the piece that I would want to add is that oftentimes for men, and you said you have a female therapist, oftentimes it's not uncommon for men to feel uncomfortable talking to a female therapist because it's the concept is this person judging me on some things based on just gender. But there are a lot of, and a person has the right to choose who they feel best comfortable with. But there are, African-American therapists, male and female. There are, therapists of all different types of backgrounds. And I would say to a person that if you go to a therapist and then maybe you guys don't gel, it shouldn't necessarily be the end of it. You can continue on your journey to find somebody, because that's the thing. When you feel comfortable with somebody, you're more inclined to talk to them. It's that reinforcing that rapport that's there. So you might go, talk to a person and you don't gel. It shouldn't be the end of the journey. If you feel like you want to and need to talk to somebody, then you keep on your search until you find that person that you can, you know, some people, if I'm a guy of a certain age, I might not want somebody around my same age. I might want somebody older than me. I might want somebody from a different type of demographic. But whatever person that I best feel comfortable with, that person is probably, if they have that skill set, is going to probably help me kind of navigate through these stressors that I'm having in my life. So it's not a one-stop thing where, you know, I go meet you and I don't like you for whatever reason, that, you know, I let you shut that down for me. No, I'm like, well, me and him, we didn't see eye to eye. We didn't, you know, I didn't agree on the goals he wanted to set for me. But you have the ability to go out there because there's so many forms that a person can plug into counseling, you know, today. Some of them are commercial, some of them are local, national. The avenues are there. And, you know, we didn't talk about the insurance piece, but that's one of those barriers too for some individuals, is that, you know, insurance sometimes hinders a person from being able to go into those therapy settings. But there are oftentimes nonprofits that can offer, you know, counseling at no charge at all.
If I can add something else to even like the younger kid, to parents and fathers that have kids, like teach your kids to go to the counselor at school. Yeah. The same way you can go to the nurse to be sick, you can go to the counselor if your child needs to talk. I think the biggest helpful thing is to talk to somebody non-biased, so you feel that you're heard. I think one of the biggest challenges is that we're on social media and we're not interacting and we're not talking, especially in a time of COVID where we're being so secluded and kids are being home from school. Make sure your kids have access to their counselors, even though they're not in school, because they're going to need it. And the younger you like, I'm constantly in my kids' ears. Hey man, go talk to somebody. Go talk to somebody. I ain't talking about your uncle and your best friend. Right. Like go talk to somebody. And so if they have access to a counselor in school, that's going to help them when they go to college. I can't begin to tell you the athletes. I have to say, hey, I'm here to listen, but now it's time for you to take it to the next level and go see your counselor at your school. And then I follow up with them to make sure that they go see the university counselor.
And not so much for you or I as adults, but the point that you just made, parents should be very leery of social media with kids. There are countless studies and research that show that social media contributes directly to depression. Every kid cannot balance that, because what you see typically in social media, you see the best of people all the time. You know, whether it's, you know, Facebook or Instagram, you see them doing these wonderful things, you know, posting up, flossing, and we know that that's probably not how their life is day in and day out. But it can, for a large segment, not just young people, but just people in general, it adds to depression, because you start to think that your life is many ways inadequate to what you're seeing, but really that's just a facade. So, you know, I have my own things about social media. As an adult, you can use it freely as you choose to, but when you have young kids, school-age kids, there has to be parental buffers that you put on that, because it really, many kids are not equipped to handle what they're exposed to day in and day out on social media.
And I believe the sentiment that both of you gentlemen share is very relevant and a very responsible conversation. And the only thing that I would add to that is that there was a time that an elementary school age child, middle school age child going to see a therapist or a counselor, it was the acceptance of the rule. I don't think a kid can get from pre-K to 12 without some level of interventional support at some point. I believe that it really should be the norm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You know, I just think that again, that old way of it's not, I don't believe it's going to serve us. We have to make sure that we allow our children that safe space. They don't want to always hear from dad.
Right.
They don't want to always hear from mom. Oh, I got a great relationship with my child. Oh, my child loves me. I don't dispute that at all.
All right.
What I do know for sure is that children have things on their heart and on their mind that they may not talk to you as mom about. They may not talk to dad about.
Exactly.
I'm just piggybacking on what these said in employing the audience to consider linking your child to some support.
If I can add, also, man, don't minimize when somebody is crying out.
Yeah.
I can't begin to tell you, like, it's one thing for you to sit back after it happens and say, hey, I wish I could have, should have. But like, if you feel, this is my mindset now. I rather me being mad at my friends and my friends being mad at me for overstepping than not making sure that they're okay. So it's real important. I got a guy on Twitter. I'm gonna give him a shout out because he reaches out to me. He's a Marine. Resiliency_1. I have never met this man, but one day, man, I just was not feeling it. And I get like 2 or 3 inboxes or tweets from him a week. Hey, Devil Dog, are you okay? How you doing? Are you good? And so that really made me feel good because I'm like, man, there are genuinely people who care. And so even in social media, I don't even take it lightly because you got celebrities who are crying out, and then we find out through TMZ later that they took their life. So I don't even take it lightly because I'm on social media. I rather somebody just cuss me out. I'll be honest with you, but I'll inbox them and say, I know you said no DMs, but that last tweet, I just want to make sure you're good. You know, someone loves you and care about you.
Right.
So I just want to say, as you know, as a society, I believe in agape, man, that unconditional love, and it's nothing to give it, man. So if you have the opportunity to, like I say every day, man, try to make someone smile, and if you see somebody hurting, reach out.
Yeah.
Well, I want to honor your time, and I want to thank you all for coming on and expressing your thoughts, your expertise about mental health and Black men. Before we get off, I would like for you to let listeners know how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you on any social media. That would be great if you could do that.
Okay, you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Lester Burney, and you can also find me at woodbridgebehavior.com. That is my website. If you have any questions, because I'm always willing, I'll talk to individuals. And if it's, again, my whole philosophy, if it's not me, then I can maybe help you find somebody that you can align to, because, you know, the point is valid. We need to connect people to resources that are out there.
Awesome.
I'm the comic book theologist. You can follow me at CP Theologist on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm Daryle Smith on Facebook. But the best way to reach out to me and to have those discussions is probably pretty much Twitter. Okay.
Very good.
And, I'm not much of a social media guy, but on Facebook, I'm William Batts. On IG, I'm William Batts MSW. And I just try to use my platform to just sow some hope and point people in the right direction. So if you need any support, I certainly point you in the direction.
Very good.
Well, again, thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back here again next Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we look forward to chatting with you. And thank you all for listening and watching I Change the Narrative.